The Kravathi were apex predators long before they reached for the stars. Forearmed, scaled, and equipped with jaws that could crush durasteel, they had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain through millennia of blood and dominance. When they finally broke free from their gravity well and encountered the wider galaxy, they brought with them a culture built on strength, honor, and the unshakable belief that only the strong deserved to survive. Humans confused them. These soft, bipedal creatures with blunt teeth and weak jaws had somehow conquered their own world and spread across the stars. The Kravathi couldn't understand it. Humans had no natural weapons, no armor plating, no venom. They were prey animals who had forgotten their place in the natural order. Arya was no exception to Kravathi expectations. She was a xenobiologist assigned to their colony world of Thorn Kai, studying the local ecosystem with the enthusiasm typical of her species. The Kravathi tolerated her presence because the Galactic Council required it, but they kept their distance. She was small, fragile, and entirely unimpressive by their standards. Everything changed on the day the Ravagers came. The Ravagers were a scourge that plagued the outer colonies, a swarm of biomechanical horrors that consumed everything in their path. When their ships descended upon Thorn Kai, the Kravathi mobilized immediately. Warriors grabbed their weapons and rushed to defensive positions, their predatory instincts screaming at them to protect their territory. Arya was at the eastern settlement when the attack began, far from the main colony. With her was a group of Kravathi cubs, younglings barely old enough to walk upright, who had been following her around as she cataloged plant specimens. The adult guards had been called away to the front lines, leaving only Arya with the 6 cubs when the Ravager Scout unit descended from the crimson sky. The creatures were nightmares given form, twisted amalgamations of flesh and machine, driven by an insatiable hunger. There were 12 of them, each larger than a Kravathi adult, their mechanical limbs clicking and whirring as they advanced. Arya didn't run. The Kravathi who survived would later recall hearing her voice over the comm systems, calm and steady despite the circumstances. "This is Arya Chen, Eastern Settlement under attack. I have 6 cubs with me. I'm buying time. Send help." She had no weapons designed for combat. What she did have was a geological survey kit, 3 emergency flares, and a mind that had evolved to solve problems. While the cubs huddled behind her in a shallow cave, Arya stepped forward to meet the Ravagers. She used the flares first, igniting them and hurling them at the creature's optical sensors, blinding 3. She triggered a controlled explosive from her survey kit, collapsing the narrow canyon entrance and crushing 2 more. When they adapted and began climbing over the rubble, she stood at the cave entrance with nothing but a plasma torch meant for cutting rock samples. The battle lasted 17 minutes. Drax, the colony's elder warrior, led the rescue force that arrived to find the aftermath. The Ravagers lay in pieces, scattered across the canyon floor. Arya's body rested at the cave entrance, the plasma torch still clutched in her hand. Her blood mixed with the oil and ichor of the creatures she had destroyed. Behind her, terrified but alive, were all 6 cubs. She had killed 7 Ravagers. Alone, with tools never meant for war. Drax knelt beside her body, his forearms trembling, something no Kravathi had ever seen from their greatest warrior. He studied the defensive positions she had chosen, the makeshift traps she had constructed, and the precision of every action she had taken. This wasn't the work of prey running on instinct. This was a predator's mind operating at its peak, sacrificing everything for the sake of the young. "We were wrong," Drax said to the warriors gathered around him. "Humans are not prey. They are something far more dangerous." The funeral was unlike any in Kravathi history. Every warrior on Thorn Kai attended, and when word spread to other colonies, ships came from across their territories. They built a monument at the canyon entrance, but Drax knew that stone wouldn't be enough to honor what Arya had done. In Kravathi culture, a warrior's weapon was sacred, forged from materials that held meaning. Drax spent 3 months crafting the first blade, working metal from Arya's destroyed equipment with fragments of Ravager armor she had shattered. The weapon was unlike traditional Kravathi arms, lighter, more precise, and designed for a 2-armed grip. Along the blade, He etched a single word in human script. Arya. He named it Chenther, Guardian's Edge, in the old tongue. When Drax presented the blade to the colony, something unprecedented happened. Every warrior demanded one, not as a trophy or a curiosity, but as a reminder. They wanted to carry Arya's name into every battle, to remember the human who had shown them that strength wasn't measured in claws or fangs, but in the willingness to stand when everything demanded you flee. The tradition spread like wildfire through Cravathi space. Master smiths began crafting Chenther blades, each one bearing Arya's name, each one given to warriors who proved themselves worthy of carrying her legacy. Young Cravathi who received their first blade would touch the etched name and recite the oath. I carry Arya. I protect the young. I stand when others run. When humans learned of the tradition, they were baffled. Arya Chen had been a scientist, not a soldier. But to the Cravathi, that made her sacrifice even more profound. She had no training for war, yet she had fought like a warrior because there was no other choice. The 6 cubs she saved grew into legendary warriors themselves. Each took the name Chen as part of their title, and they taught their own young about the small human who had proven that courage wasn't a gift of biology. It was a choice. Decades later, when humanity and the Cravathi faced a common enemy that threatened both their peoples, it was Drax, now ancient but still sharp, who stood before the human military council. He laid a Chenther blade on the table before them. We judged you as prey, he said, his voice carrying the weight of years. Arya taught us better. When Cravathi and humans stand together, nothing in this galaxy can break us. The human admiral picked up the blade, reading the name etched along its length. She had known Arya once, long ago, before the scientist had ventured into the outer colonies. She would have liked this, the admiral said quietly. She always said that understanding between species was possible. Drax's mandibles clicked, and what humans had learned was a smile. She didn't just teach us understanding. She taught us that humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy because you don't protect your own. You protect everyone. The blade passed between them, Arya's name catching the light, a reminder that heroism needs no claws, and that sometimes the bravest warriors are those who were never meant to fight at all.